This video was made possible by CuriosityStream. Get the CuriosityStream Nebula Bundle for only $14.79 a year at curiositystream.com/HAI. Oh hey there, how's it going? Did you have a good week? Yeah, I bet you did, because I bet you weren't stupid enough to try to write a video explaining the most complicated language in the world. It's called Ithkuil, and it's a conlang, a non-natural engineered language developed by genius/madman who stole a week of my life, John Quijada, and if you want to learn it and have your mind collapse into itself like mine, you can read this comically long online guide. How long is it? Well, I don't know. I tried to find out by pasting it into a Word document, but that crashed my computer. Anyways, ironically, Ithkuil is intended to be maximally precise while using the fewest letters possible. And to be fair, it succeeds. For example, these two Ithkuil words translate to, on the contrary, I think it may turn out that this rugged mountain range trails off at some point. Ithkuil makes few word do trick by making each word extraordinarily information dense. Think of Ithkuil not as having a bunch of words to choose from, but instead as a sort of Chipotle burrito line where, when you need a word, you go to a bunch of stations and slowly add sounds, called phonemes, that each have specific meanings to build a word that means exactly what you need it to. By the way, Ithkuil includes weird phonemes like k and k, which I definitely just said wrong. This chart is the key to understanding Ithkuil. It lays out the 15 stations you stop at to add phonemes and build your word, although we're only going to focus on the 6 that are required. You start with the root, which gives your word's base meaning. There are about 3,600 roots, which group together related words. For example, all words that describe any type of want, desire, crave, need, come from the root be. For explaining purposes, let's say we want a word that will describe how I feel writing this video. We'd start with ks, meaning fool or clown. That's what the hat isn't actually pronounced that way, but the guide says it's a voiceless, non-labialized limino postal velar dorso-palatal grooved sibilant fricative, which doesn't really help me a whole lot. Now, each root has 18 stems that are more nuanced versions of the word, split into formal and informal, then 3 patterns with 3 meanings each. So for fool/clown, let's look at our options and let's go with nerd/dweeb, and why not put it in the context of pathetic? That's informal and the third meaning of the third pattern, but then we also have to add one of 4 functions. All Ithkuil nouns are stative, but just if you're curious, if it were a verb, function would help us understand the relationship the verb has to its noun participants, which is best understood through these examples that we don't have time to explain. So third pattern, third stem, stative, okay, that means we need O before it. So far, our word is oaks. Now we move to case, the part the noun is playing in our sentence. English has 3 cases: subjective, possessive, objective. Ithkuil has, you guessed it, 96, which serve to add nuance. Let's say that our intended sentence is, the dweeb got a headache from trying to figure out all this nonsense. In that case, I would use the inducive case, which can indicate not only that the dweeb is the subject, but also that the dweeb is both the agent causing the action and the patient being impacted. Inducive is marked by U, so now our word is oaksu. Now we get to probably the most complicated part. One single phenome will describe 5 different things: essence, extension, configuration, affiliation, and perspective, the last 3 of which have no equivalent in any other language. Let's start with configuration. There are 9 options which express how many things our word describes. Now, I've been talking about one dweeb, which would be the uniplex, but actually this video was made by a whole team of dweebs. So let's actually use the aggregative configuration, which describes an associated group or set of non-identical entities. Next, affiliation. What's the relationship of us dweebs? There are 4 options, but let's go with the coalescent. That means we're associated with each other, but all have different roles, but towards a common goal. Now let's talk perspective. Basically, it's like number, plural or singular, plus tense, except obnoxious. There are 4 options, but we're going to go with the mondaic, which means that it can be understood as existing as an accessible, bounded entity, unlike, say, the abstract, which would be the idea of dweebs generally. Then there are 2 options for essence. Is it an actual thing or a hypothetical representation of a thing? In this case, us dweebs are real. And finally, there are 6 extensions. Extension requires these fully insane drawings to fully explain, but basically it tells you what part of the thing we're talking about. The beginning, a section, the whole, so on. We're talking about the whole group of dweebs, so that's the delimitate. And now we use this inhumanely long set of charts to figure out what letter to add. Essence, normal. Extension, delimitate. Perspective, mondaic. Affiliation, coalescent. Configuration, aggregative. That means we add our N, which means our word is oakser. Now we just gotta figure out 2 more details. First, tone. There are 7 different tones, which for verbs lets us know version, if an action is goal or result oriented, and whether it was successful. For example, a successful attempt would go rising falling, unsuccessful would go low tone, but our word is a noun which defaults to a falling tone. Finally, which syllable should be stressed? That will indicate whether that earlier sound, the O that said third stem, third pattern, pathetic dweeb, not laughingstock, was operating in the formal or informal side of the chart. This will also indicate if an event is being used to frame another event. Like in the sentence, I wrote the video while everyone else had fun, the clause everyone else having fun would be framing my writing. But we aren't doing that, so it's unframed and informal, which means I must stress the final syllable. And now we can finally say our word, Oxern. The entirety of a non-hypothetical, physically accessible group of various pathetic dweebs working towards some common goal who cause themselves to experience something. You know what else is a group of various dweebs working towards a common goal? Me and my friends who started Nebula, the streaming site with content from your favorite educationalist creators, including a bunch of stuff that the Wendover Oxern made. The HI Brick Special, a 3-part trivia show, 3 Wendover original documentaries, my podcast Showmakers with Brian from Real Engineering, and ad-free and often extended versions of all my regular YouTube videos. Plus, with a bundle, you'll also get access to CuriosityStream's thousands of top-quality documentaries, including a bunch of great ones on linguistics, like The Grammar of Happiness. You can get access to both for the rather insane sale price of just over $1 a month by going to curiositystream.com/HAI. And when you do, you'll be helping support independent creators like us.